Hello and welcome to Simplifying Rural Marketing by Ajay. Friends, today I am super excited to welcome brand guru Mr. Harish Bijoor in a candid discussion on local to global, a dream or a possibility. Mr. Harish Bijoor is the founder of a unique boutique consulting firm, Harish Bijoor Consults Inc, with offices across the world providing consultancy in various sectors. He has authored two books and is considered a marketing practitioner and a thinker who's ahead of consumer thinking curve. Is a public speaker who speaks to corporate audience across the globe in the realm of motivation, people management issues, and brands. Hello and welcome, Mr. Bijou, to Rural Marketing. You had a very illustrious career and you have been tagged as a brand guru. So please tell us a little bit about your journey and what is your next goal now?
Well, firstly, I'm not sure whether I have an illustrious career or not, because I always evaluate my ability on the last three consulting assignments that I've handled, or the last three strategic initiatives that I've handled, or the last three strategy talks that I have given. My last three, across these three, have been reasonably okay. I'm happy. I hope my next three is going to be good as well. Typically, I think, I started early in sales and marketing. I started in sales, and that's what I insist people must do. I spent a long period of time working rural markets because, HUL, today, Brookbond, Lipton India Limited, these are companies I've worked with which typically believe in rural markets in a big way. And therefore, I think, I honed my selling skills in rural India. And I think that's held me in good stead. After that, I became an urban animal, and I've been able to take a lot of rural learnings from rural India to urban India, and from urban India into the global format. And that's the beauty of rural India.
So, spending almost more than 2 decades. So, how has the consumers changed in last 1 decade? I mean, how has do you see a substantial change in the consumer behavior?
Oh, yes, consumers have changed very dramatically. I typically say there are two rural Indias. One rural India is sitting at the top of the pyramid, and another is sitting at the bottom of the pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid in rural India is larger than the top of the pyramid, rural India. So there are about 90 million homes at the bottom of the pyramid. And the top of the pyramid is about 43 million homes. So if you really look at these two Indias, consumer behavior across these two segments vary. One is gullible India and the other is savvy rural India. And savvy rural India is who we normally market to, because marketable India is, the top of the pyramid, rural India, and bottom of the pyramid is yet to be touched.
That's very interesting because the marketers has to be very careful how they are positioning their products and which markets they really need to enter. So I was just listening to the Prime Minister. 8 p.m. has become a cinemas overall now, and he has been talking that local to global. And you have been also talking to a lot about the same aspect. And so my question and the question which is there is we are talking local to global. So is it a dream or do you see that it's really possible?
Well, I think it's a brilliant stroke by Prime Minister Modi ji. If you really ask me, I think, the idea is that COVID has made the world very cautious. And all of a sudden, in this very cautious moment, the world is getting divided and distanced physically. So there is something called COVID physical distancing of the world, which means to say I could be an auto player in Chennai manufacturing a car, but the parts that need to go into my car need to come from 6 different destinations across the world. Something might come from Germany, something from South Korea, something from China. And it's quite likely bulk of that comes from China. Therefore, these items coming in, now we have an issue. And all of a sudden, our domestic industry is at a standstill. That car cannot be produced because if you don't have those parts, you can't go anywhere. And therefore, to an extent, there is a genesis of it all in the Make in India kind of a plan. which I very frankly did not take off at all. Did not take care of at all, because Make in India was largely a slogan. But today, I think with Prime Minister Modi coming out and talking about vocal for local, I think that's a terrific line, because all of a sudden, COVID has pushed us into saying, hey, listen, let's look at self reliance. India
Yes.
must be self reliant. And if you're self reliant, you'll not be dependent on the global economy and anything that happens to the global economy. And I think that is a thought. So that's a beautiful thought. But personally, I'm at stress because of this thought. Because all of a
Yes.
sudden, corporates within India of the
Yes.
multinational kind are
Hmm.
talking to me and saying that, hey, listen, we need to do something. Okay. And what do you need to do something? Hey, we don't want to look all this multinational. We want to
Hmm.
look less multinational. Can we look a little more desi? What
Yes.
must we do to do that? And therefore, sleepless nights. And Indian companies, which are already in this space, are suddenly saying, oh God, I am
Hmm.
Indian. I suddenly realize that I'm an Indian company. How do
Hmm.
I showcase my brand proposition to make me look Indian? And the
Hmm.
third category of company, which is after my throats today, is, hey guys, we are a totally Indian company, but I've got a foreign brand name. Now,
Yes.
guys, that is a mistake. A 100% Desi company with a
Yeah.
foreign brand label, which they thought was going to give them kicks in the future. And they're saying,
Hmm.
how do we revive? What do we do? So for a brand person and for a company which handles brands, this is good times and bad times. Good times because business is booming, but bad times because personal life is dooming.
So you see a lot of opportunities in terms of for the consultants like you, for you, because there's and like you have been. I'm sure you must be consulting a lot of corporates which are global brands. All
Yes,
right,
yes.
and for them it is going to be challenging. But do you see that this challenge will continue, or they have to evolve, or they have to completely change their strategy?
To be very frank with you, all the global companies that I've been consulting with, the biggies in different spaces, I
Hmm.
have built a plan for them already. In 2018, I
Hmm.
published an article which I titled hashtag Desi Revival. Now,
Hmm.
Desi Revival, and I published it in the brand equity of the Economic Times at that point of time. And I was really
Hmm.
talking about the fact that Desi Revival is going to happen. And
Hmm.
basis that, we actually put together a forward integration plan for several of the
Hmm.
companies that I work in, whether the
Hmm.
space be in auto, whether FMCG, durables,
Hmm.
technology, e-commerce, many, many verticals. And therefore,
Hmm.
many of these players have got a plan B in
Hmm.
place. And you'll
Hmm.
see all of it hitting the road very soon.
Hmm.
But there are some players who did not plan for it. They listened to
Hmm.
us and said, ha, Desi revival. Yeah,
Hmm.
we heard about it. There was something
Hmm.
called the Vidarbha movement in the days of yore. Nothing
Hmm.
happened with it. It didn't go anywhere. Desi
Hmm.
revival you're talking about now, yeah, it sounds fashionable, but it will
Hmm.
not go because level playing field, we are connected to the world, India and the globe, we are
Hmm.
symbiotically connected, we need to be connected. But I think
Hmm.
all of a sudden, the roof has broken now, and Modi ji, in his usual style, has said that vocal for local, and everybody wants to look local now.
But Harish, few days back, I heard and I read about this Suraksha stores being opened across the country. I think almost about 20 lakh new stores were being planned, and corporates like HUL and large companies were investing very, very heavily in the rural areas. So, don't you see there is something which is altogether new, which has erupted, and this will disturb their business plans as such?
Yes. You see, what's happened is there is going to be an Amrit Manthan in the entire business environment today.
Yes.
Everybody's business is getting challenged. Okay. Now, many of us are saying that, hey, listen, global companies which have global brands and which repatriate profits to an overseas market will not be franchised by people. Not at all true. Because many of the global brands that I represent and which I don't represent as well offer great quality, offer great value, and consumers are hooked to that value.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
value proposition will not go anywhere. And many of
Hmm.
these companies have been manufacturing in India whatever is to be taken for the last 60, 80, 100 years. And
Hmm.
therefore, these kind of companies, nothing much will happen to their business profiles. But
Hmm.
the key aspect is Suraksha stores. Let's talk about retail.
Yes.
Retail is big business in this country. At last count, the retail population is 14.6 million retail outlets in the country. If I
Yes.
add Pan Bita shops, Nukkad shops, everything. 14.6 million retail outlets is a large population of our retail outlets.
Hmm.
We are a nation of shopkeepers. In a nation of shopkeepers, if you really look at it, there's going to be tumult. And the tumult is that all of a sudden, the first thing that will happen is a whole set of shopkeepers will now say, I will not keep foreign products in my retail outlet. Once that happens, I think the roof will fall on many heads. And
Hmm.
therefore, I think there's a lot of management process which needs to go in to plan for any kind of, in inverted commas, calamity of this kind. Because
Hmm.
retailer is a very important entity. The retailer is the middleman. Every item that we eat or drink or partake of in our homes gets pushed from
Hmm.
the C&F, the factory to the C&F, the C&F to the distributor to the wholesaler to the retailer. That is a
Hmm.
push process. But at the retailer comes pull.
Hmm. Hmm.
Marketeers of big multinational brands have always depended on the pull aspect and said that I'm going to get pull. Now, retailer is a very important guy. If the retailer decides tomorrow that I'm not going to give the window of opportunity for your brand to be displayed at my counter, or for that
Hmm.
matter, even stocked at my counter, or
Hmm.
in a more benign way, to say that I will stock 80% Desi and 20% Videshi. And that Videshi is a very difficult definition to arrive at. If you arrive at that kind of a tumult, then
Hmm.
the big MNC brands are going to have problems. Not only MNC brands which are made overseas and brought in from overseas, but even MNC brands which are made in our, in Copolis and Vikrolis of the world
Hmm.
and sold within the country. Therefore, I think these are tumultuous times. Every type of business is going to go through tumult. I'll give you one more example. I work with a guy who makes ghee, okay? And this is a multinational ghee, okay?
Hmm.
And MNC ghee never really took off in a big way in this country because local was always respected. But
Hmm.
listen, COVID-19 has worried a lot of people about how local players make their ghee and bottle it, how much of human interface is necessary in it, how people are hand pouring ghee into bottles, hand sealing, and then, hand shutting and hand shrink wrapping and sending it out. In the old days, the small is beautiful was a language which you and I liked, which was nice. But
Hmm.
today, small and clean is beautiful.
Yes.
So the
Yes.
ghee guy, the local ghee guy, who
Hmm.
does all this kind of packing without having cleanliness and hygiene around him,
Hmm.
however big his business is going to get questioned. And this goes for the snack food industry in India. If you
Hmm.
visit and see how snack food is prepared in the country, you may or may not want to eat from that packet.
Yes.
If you visit and see how some of our juices and concentrates are prepared, you may not want to partake
Yes.
of that.
Yes.
The reality, Ajay, is that we are entering into a paranoid society of customers. The consumer in India is paranoid, and the paranoid consumer is so paranoid that in the morning when the milk comes in those plastic sachets to your
Yes.
doorstep, you pick it up gingerly, take it to your tap, keep it under the water, use a cake of soap, and clean up the surface because it's a cold product. It's been through a cold chain. Somebody has brought it to your doorstep. We don't know how many people have touched it, and in it comes. If you live in a better home like you do, Ajay, you would
Hmm.
have a dishwasher into which you will put your milk packets, all the plastic packets hermetically sealed, and clean it up. Paranoid consumer.
Hmm.
You and I have become paranoid consumers, and catering to this consumer, there's a contradiction. Small is beautiful. Yeah, it was. But small and hygienic is beautiful.
Yeah.
Big and hygienic is very beautiful. So the MNC ghee that goes out and says that it is non-machine touched ghee, it is manufactured. We have RPA, robotic process automation. It's robotically produced, untouched by human being. I think that's something that people. Therefore, contradictions in the economy. We thought this entire move of local will benefit every local player. No, not many local players will benefit, because the clean local player, the hygiene centric, hygiene paranoid local player, the local player who invests in machines and packaging without human touch, he's going to benefit. So, fantastic opportunities for everybody in the great Indian market.
So rightly you said manthan. पहले तो manthan चल रहा था. COVID was a manthan. People were just struggling with this. And another mantra which has been given by the Prime Minister, I think it has changed the overall the dynamics of people who are there in the business. I think they'll have to be altogether thinking in a new, different manner. I think you have very rightly said. So another thing very important is in rural areas, the local pride. It has been very I mean, people talk about local pride. So in your view, what does a local pride really mean in rural areas?
Okay. I do a fair bit of research in rural markets for the bigger
Yeah.
companies till now. Now
Yeah.
I hope to do that for the smaller companies as well. If you
Wow.
really look at it, typically rural pride is something that has been stemming and growing from 2014 onwards. And I have studied rural markets on a step-by-step basis, on every 6-month gap kind of a basis, from 2014 to now. I have, and that's why in 2018 I wrote this piece which talks about Desi revival. At that point of time, whichever place I went to, I saw Desi pride. If I go into a Madurai and if I go to a place called Dindigal, out there is a large university, and in the large university, the professors actually come dressed now in a dhoti and
Wow.
a shirt, and they wear slippers and come. In the old days, prior to 2014, they were coming in shoes and trousers and shirts and jeans. No, jeans weren't allowed for professors, but they would come back. Now, my guy comes in a dhoti. So I've interviewed hosts of professors. They say, this is what is natural. This is the
Yeah.
way we live.
Yes.
Madurai, Dindigal, very hot places. This is the most comfortable attire. It helps me teach better. And it's Desi pride. And Desi pride is a movement. I go to Punjab. The Desi Gabru movement is huge. Desi Gabru. There are stickers going around called Desi Gabru. And Desi Gabru in Haryana, in Punjab, in Rajasthan. I think big movements. So every part of the country I've gone to, except in the Northeast, the Desi movement is huge. And that revival is actually going to cascade a load of Desi brands. And therefore, for some of the multinational brands that I handle, we have changed the entire formatting. We have said that we don't think like multinationals anymore. We have to think like locals. We have to think more local than local,
Yes.
which means that global is a mindset which is old, local is a mindset which is new. And we
True.
started this in the year 2018. Okay, so 2 years we have started that. Secondly, my brand name. Why should my brand name be in English only?
True.
In India, the active languages that are happening is 27 active languages. And the dialects, active dialects that are happening is about 1,670 active dialects. English is but one language. Why must my brand be only in English? Because even today in rural markets, any brand that we sell, everything is an English brand name. Why? Even if it's got an Indian name, let's call it anything. Let's call it Agni. Agni is an Indian word, but Agni will be written Agni. Why? Why not Agni in Hindi? And why Hindi? In Tamil Nadu, I want Agni written in Tamil.
Amen.
And that is the point. So, one brand, many variants and versions of writing it. Of course, the logo form. So, there could be a drink, a food item, a machine. It must have local branding so that people in local areas resonate with it. Not only local, that local in terms of colors. Why must brand colors be international or global? There's nothing like that. Why not it resonate with the local? The brand slogan that we have always used. Many for the past 8 to 10 years, everybody has been using something or the other. Thodi si pet puja, for instance, for a chocolate. So that has been there. So everything, Indianizing it, looking local, feeling local, emoting local, the tone, tenor, and decibel of communication being local. Glib quality. The glib quality of advertising need not be global anymore. Because the more rustic you look in your advertising, the more you emote with the rustic real people who buy you. And therefore, we work for a particular entity which makes Ayurvedic products. And this brand is a very big brand today. So what did we do? This brand has all the money to go to the best advertising agencies in the country and get the best advertising pieces out. With every piece of technology, CG, this, that, everything included, AI included in that. But no, we went for this large brand which is coming out. I went to an advertising agency in Indore, a third rung advertising agency. Forgive me, my friend, I'm not taking your name, but I know you're a third rung agency in Indore. So please, I will always call you a third rung agency. You did a great job for my brand because you made that film in a very rustic manner. You did not use all that highfalutin latest techniques which make everything look slick and the glib. Point is, the slick and the glib will not win the world of the future. The more real will win the world of the future. And therefore, we kind of did that. Then I handled a political party. And this political party, I do some advertising for political parties, strategizing for political parties. We went and said, you always go to Mumbai and you make the best advertising film for yourself and show it in rural areas. Hurry, hold on, guys. Rural people really distrust urban people. Point number one. Please remember this. Rural people distrust urban people. Rural people distrust a lot of people, urban people, in the local governance structure even. Rural people distrust urban people. Every marketer is an urban person. Rural people distrust urban advertising, which means to say that when I went to this political party and said that let's not go to Bombay now to make your ad, but let me take you to Bareilly. And in Bareilly, we actually made this ad with, again, not a third, but a fourth rung advertising agency. Okay. Again, my Bareilly friend, please forgive me for calling you fourth rung. I will always call you fourth rung. But remember, you are the future. Fourth rung agency, he made a rustic film for the politician. And when the film went, same script was devised by us, the strategy was put together by us, the storyline was put together by us in my company, but the advertising execution was made by a fourth rung agency in Bareilly. And that resonated with the rural heart because the language, tone, tenor, decibel, visual, graphics, everything resonated. What is the meaning of it? Emote, emote, and emote. And I think if you emote right, you'll do well.
But do you think the acceptance will start immediately or it's going to take some time?
Okay. See, if you really look at this local versus global, I think the first thing that will happen is going to happen in the companies which are on both sides of the fence. We have global companies with global brands and MNCs, transnational corporations, and we have Desi companies with Desi roots, but very big. So there are three kinds of companies I put in my article. The first type of company sits at the top of the pyramid, and this guy is the global multinational in India. The second type is who I call the Indian multinational in India. A global multinational in India could be a Coca-Cola India. An Indian multinational in India could be an ITC Limited.
Yes.
ITC with all their brands that they have. And many of their brands sound foreign in terms of names as well. So that correction might need to happen. And the third kind of a company is the Indian company, Patanjali Ayurved.
Yes.
So these are three types of companies. Now, what will happen first? The first reaction will happen. The global multinational will want to look very much like an Indian multinational. The Indian multinational will go fighting and saying that the global multinational is not Indian, I am Indian. So the first battle will start at the corporate level. The Indian multinational will say, I am big and I am this way. The third kind of a grouping, the Indian company, which is large, let's say something like Patanjali Ayurved, they will also go hammer and tongs and say, I am Indian, I am Desi, and the foreign multinational is not Desi. So the overseas multinational at the top of the pyramid is going to get two pressures. One from the Desi multinational and one from the true blue Desi company of a smaller size. And that pressure is going to be tremendous. But there are plans which can tackle that. And needless to say, I can't share any of those plans for obvious reasons of client confidentiality issues. At the same time, this is a fantastic opportunity for companies which are in Indian space, which believe, let's go to the biscuit space. In the biscuit space, you have Parle biscuits. I think they're one of the largest biscuit players in the world. I mean, Parle G itself, if you talk about a turnover which is humongous, let's call it something like 6,000 crores of turnover, that you're really talking a large brand. These are brands that can re-establish themselves and make deeper inroads in the great Indian market. Look at the ice cream market. Again, ice cream market is going to be divided between two. One is going to be the domestic ice cream market and the overseas ice cream market.
Yes.
There's something called ice cream at one end and there's something called frozen dessert at another end. The two will fight. So I think interesting days with global, local, and the local, and the local global, and the global local.
And do you see that? Did you see this happening in metro, semi-metros, towns, cities, and villages? Or it's going to be a pattern which is slowly and gradually going to take off. People are going to start feeling that yes, we are Indians, and let's start buying Indian products. Even today, I just read that defense, Indian Army, or those people have started saying that in our canteens we are going to be having more of Indian products.
Yeah.
So, what's your view on that?
See, my view is this. I just spoke to you about the first movement, which will happen between the three types of companies. The company versus company war that is going to do. But even as that's happening, the second war will start off with by government diktat. The government will say that all government organizations must stock a particular type of products, let's say. And there'll be a product listing maybe to say that, let's look at it. And that's what you see in CSD now and everything that we've been hearing. The third most important point is the battlefield of the retail market. And action will happen here where suddenly there will be different kinds of players in this market. In the retail market, you don't have any multinational retailers in a real manner. Yes, there are some, but not too many. Out of the 14.6 million retailers in this country, I would say that 99.1% of them are all of Desi origin. Every one of them can take a decision tomorrow to say that, hey, I stock only Desi, which means I will become a Desi supermarket. I will not have any multinational brand or even multinational sounding brand. Oh, that's bad. That's really bad. Because there are many multinationals in the country which have, evolved differently. The second relief is he can say, I'll stock 80% Desi and 20% Videshi. And which means that even that will put pressure on. So the first battle starts at the corporate battleground. The second starts at retail. And the final bastion is the consumer. Because if the consumer tomorrow in India decides that, hey, listen, I am going to buy only Desi.
True.
And when he goes to the shop, A store shop that stocks 80% Videshi and 20% Desi will suddenly start reversing it because the consumer is asking more for Desi. Consumer
True.
demand that goes to retail outlets makes the retail outlet place orders on the company. And therefore, today the biggest negotiator and the negotiating stance lies with the retailer. The retailer has become very powerful. He'll demand bigger margins from the bigger companies and from the MNCs, and he'll be forced to stock a lot of Indian goods even at a lower margin.
And so, what is the really the current buying behavior in terms of rural areas? What kind of buyings they do, and how do they do buying of the various products?
Okay, rural people are totally very, very savvy in their purchase behavior. I keep saying that, advertising does not sway them, really. They go in for stuff which they think is intelligently made use of in their homes. For instance, a rural person is going to buy a television set. I've done an extensive piece of research among 31,000 plus rural people across 26 clusters, and across these sample sizes, I found that when they go to buy a television set, the guy lands up in the shop. He does not go alone. He goes with his entire family, because in rural areas, buying is a family occasion. All of them will dress up and go. And when they go to the counter to buy, there needs to be seating where they can all sit, because four people cannot be standing for 40 minutes. They have to sit. So rural retailers need to have sitting space. There needs to be a cold drink machine from which 4 cold drinks will be taken out and given to them, because you have to take care of customers. Atiti Devo Bhava. The retailer is a home, and these people are going into that home to buy, but not only to buy, but relationships should be struck. Relationship management is huge, but after all that, they go in with a brand name which they've heard on television, but when they land up there, they ask for the price, and the rural person, the head of the family, let's say 5 people have gone to the shop, immediately calculates and say, what is the price of this television set? Oh, price is 30,000 rupees. Oh, 30,000 rupees. Okay. Immediately in his mind, he says, oh, this television will last me for 10 years. Ah, nice. What is the guarantee? Acha, that much is there. It will last me for 10 years. 30,000 for 10 years is 3,000 rupees per year. Okay. 3,000 rupees divided by 365 days in 364 days in a year. I have the number. That divided by 5 people, I know the per unit cost that goes out. Believe it or not, rural people are savvy. They don't
Do
get
they
swayed. They
do
do
they
this
go into that
calculation for
calculation?
high value products. For high
Oh,
value products, this calculation is done. For detergents, they do this even for low value detergents, which is of a branded kind. They make a calculation. And this is done in a nanosecond within their minds, and they do it very, very technically. A lot of us don't understand this, because a lot of us think, oh, we buy like urban people buy. How do urban people buy? Urban people buy by getting swayed by the brand language, the story, etc., etc. We have had ridiculous products in urban markets which have done very well. Rural people, they don't. I'll give you an example. There used to be toothpaste, and this, I won't take the brand name obviously, because I don't take brand names. Um, if you really look at it, rural people, a toothpaste was launched, and this toothpaste had a proposition to say that the toothpaste with oxygen in it. Oxygen in it? I mean, it is like, kya aapke toothpaste mein namak hai? You know,
uh, uh,
this was oxygen in the toothpaste. And the advertising showed the following. It showed a boy and a girl, dating situation, both sitting at a round table, looking into one another's eye. In the round table, they're at a restaurant, there's a candle lit. The girl opens her mouth to speak, and the candle goes boom. You know why? Because there was oxygen in the toothpaste that she used to brush her teeth in the morning. Urban people love that. Rural people, they actually tried to keep a candle after brushing the teeth and testing it out. Rural people are savvy. Rural people are intelligent. Rural people are intuitive. Rural people don't take bullshit. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Which means to say that we urban people, we are always looking for stories. Arey, yeah, this is a boring ad. What? Oh, really? How nice. The advertising tone, tenor, decibel, creative, so exciting. Rural advertising is different from urban advertising. And therefore, those who understand it and those who don't defy it win. Those who say this is all nonsense, no, rural people are like urban people, they do like to hear stories and they go with
Hmm.
their stories and they fail. Important to divide India into two. 69.1% of our population, maybe 67% as of now, lives in rural areas. And these rural people are very, very important participants in the marketing economy of India. We need to understand them. We need to talk level to them. But the problem is this. There is a certain degree of urban hegemony in marketing. What is urban hegemony in marketing? I call it a kind of an apartheid. A very minority urban people govern a majority rural people in marketing. Because every brand manager, every marketing manager, every guy has to go through the system, has to go through a piece of MBA education, has to come in there and has to be conceptually savvy, which we think rural people aren't, which is not at all true. Because if you get the right rural people, we have it all there. So it's this question of a kind of a marketing apartheid. Now that should shift. And that marketing apartheid should become a marketing democracy now. And I think vocal for local is creating that kind of a democracy.
So, the country being so diverse, the rural, of course, diversity is from north to south, east to west, very, very diverse. So, what are the key 2 or 3 points what marketers needs to keep in mind while devising a strategy for rural markets?
Okay, first of all, one size does not fit all. Okay, which simply means to say that I'm not talking mass customization, but I'm talking semi-mass customization at least. For instance, the number sambar powder, so the kind of sambar that is sold in this country is a type of sambar powder. But the real most popular sambar powder is the locally made local sambar powder, made at the corner shop by someone who's got a reputation, etc. Branded sambar powders don't do well. Why? Simply because of this, that there are 236 types of sambars in the country. Different parts of the country eat different tasting sambar. 236 sambars, 231 sambars are in the west and the south of the country. And about 5 sambars are there in the east of the country and in the north of the country.
Wow.
Which means to say that sambar territory is South India and the west. Of course, there are variations. I don't call a Godampti of Maharashtra a sambar, but there is another kind of a sambar in Maharashtra which resonates very closely with sambar. So that comes within that 231 types of brands. In west of this country and south of this country, there are 231 types of sambars. In the other two parts of the country, there are 5 kinds of sambars. Which is the best sambar? When a big corporation comes in and wants to make sambar powder, what do you typically do? You study all the 236 types of sambar and say the best is this, the worst is this. Who is to say what is best? Who is to say what is worst? Because taste is differential. Then they say, let's take the largest volume sambar powder in the country selling today. And that is the best. But who says that is the best? Because the largest volume sambar powder does not even cater to 3% of the population of the country. So, which is best, which is worst? So, what do? Then there's a mathematical formula of taking the best and the worst and arriving at the average sambar powder. If you sell an average sambar powder, it slips between two stools. It is not good, it is not bad. You sell the best sambar powder, only a small niche will go and buy it. You sell the worst sambar powder, nobody will buy it. What is the solution? Not mass customization, but near mass customization. So you need to have 236 types of sambar powders. Can one brand have 236 variants of sambar powders across the country? Well, I used to be in coffee and I've done this in coffee. I've had 14 types of coffees because in coffee, one brand can have different compositions for different states. So when I'm sending coffee to Kerala, I send a different mixture and I send something called Kerala fine grind because they like fine grind coffee. When I'm sending the same coffee to Tamil Nadu under the same brand name, the big multinational brand name, I will sell it as Tamil Nadu Grind, TNG. Tamil Nadu Grind will be more coarse, but then I can divide Tamil Nadu Grind into 4 areas now. And I can say Tamil Nadu 1, 2, 3, 4 grind. And each of those are territories. So God is in the details. When you want large volumes, you have to look at a relatively more mass consumption in terms of mass customization rather than pure fine tuning, one brand, one quality. That those days are gone now.
So you mean to say that the brands needs to have different flavors for different regions, or there has to
Yeah.
be a one universal brand? That's what?
No, no, I would say one brand name, but
Yes.
different flavors,
Region.
different variants for different regions,
Regions.
depending on how they need to be catered to.
Yes.
And
Very well.
today, in manufacturing, we are able to control logistics beautifully. Okay,
Hmm.
I know exactly what I can pack for which region. My codes
Hmm.
tell me that this goes here, this goes there. I can have
Hmm.
236 codes if I want for sambar powders. I've not done
Hmm.
it, but for coffee, I've done 16 areas. I
Hmm.
have 16 codes for coffee. So
Hmm.
every area gets what they want. There's localization, there's customization. People say this is my kind of coffee and they adopt it. So
Hmm.
local has always been beautiful, but only we're recognizing it now because Prime Minister Modi has gone and said vocal for local.
Yes. And how is critical is the role of Gen Z and the women in the rural markets?
Okay. See, in rural markets, shopping behavior typically at retail outlets, 67.4% of all shopping is done by men at retail outlets.
Hmm.
Okay. And the balance is done by women. These 67 point odd percent of people who actually shop, go to the shop, they are only shoppers. They are not
Hmm.
decision makers. Decision maker is the woman in the house. The woman
Okay.
in the house will write a chit, and one item which the man buys out of his own volition, he'll get a knock on the head.
Hmm.
So the beauty is domains are split in rural areas in a particular manner. It is still, gender specific. The
Hmm.
woman says that any item that goes into the kitchen is my decision. Any item that goes into the bathroom is my decision. Any item that comes into the dining room is my decision.
Hmm.
And by room, I don't mean rooms, but spaces.
Hmm.
Food is dining, kitchen means, cooking, bathroom means hygiene, etc.,
Hmm.
shampoos, soaps, etc. Anything that has to relatively to do with hardware of any kind, like a television, a washing machine included, the woman's role goes down. Because the child in the house, that role goes up. And the
Oh.
child could be of either gender, that doesn't matter. And that decision maker for hardware, even for a television, the child's influence is as much as 85%, provided the child is more than the age of 14. Okay.
Hmm.
Which means that most decision making on hard goods is taken by these people. Something which is like a tractor or something which is like a car, this is where the man's decision rules. But men have very little to do in decision making.
So overall, you mean to say almost 80 to 90% of the decisions are made by Gen X, Gen Z, and the women?
Yes, Gen Z and the women make all the decisions. The idea is this, that the women empowerment in rural areas is big in terms of purchase decision making.
Hmm.
There is one area where they don't seem to have so much of a control in terms of whether the man of the house drinks alcohol or not. And that's one space where they fight, you know.
Okay. Very, very interesting. So, something, can you share some very interesting case study or a story which is very, very close to your heart and which has really impacted the story? It has really made a difference.
Well, this business of saying that, taking wrong notions to rural markets and trying to sell those wrong notions, that's not good at all. So
Yeah.
there is a story, and there is a story that says that, hey, listen, in comes a big company from somewhere and says that I brought in a new kind of a television in your market. And the new
Hmm.
kind of a television is a television that makes you more healthy. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, how can
Hmm.
a television make you more healthy? An urban
But
person and a rural person both know that a television may not be able to make you healthy, but they've
Hmm.
said a television that can make you healthy. And they will create an ad, and there is an ad which says that, this television makes you more healthy. In
Yeah.
urban areas, that television actually clicked beautifully and it sold out like anything. Because I say, urban people love to listen to stories. We are waiting to hear stories.
Oh,
Ah,
yes.
bell mujhe maar. Ah, bell mujhe maar. We are waiting. Whereas rural people, the moment they heard it, the first question, how does it make me healthy? Sit in
Hmm.
front of it and see it for a long time. Am I feeling more healthy? So they're much more real. And I
Yes.
think that is the important item that we need to take out. That
Yeah.
yes, our creativity levels are excellent, all that. Creativity works up to a particular point of time, up to a
Hmm.
particular stage of time.
Hmm.
But rural people start asking questions on serious products.
Hmm.
Creativity works beautifully on a bubble gum or chewing gum. Doesn't
Hmm.
matter. It works beautifully. It makes impact in rural areas. People go and buy that chewing gum because it's a youngster who's chewing the gum and starts chewing it and looking at its teeth and sees if it can light up the entire city, etc., etc. That works in that. But in slightly more serious categories, creativity for the sake of creativity does not work. Creativity with strategy works. And therefore,
Hmm.
my one point which I want to leave back is a very key point. I tend to say that brand strategy is the dog and advertising is the tail. Brand strategy is the dog, advertising is the tail. The dog must wag the tail.
True.
The tail must not wag the dog. By that I mean that a lot of marketeers in this country, a lot of people who are involved in marketing, at times not knowing too much of how to market, tend to depend too much on advertising. My advice, don't, because depend more on brand strategy. First, put brand strategy together.
True.
Once you put the brand strategy together, make a brand proposition statement of that.
Hmm.
Take that brand proposition statement and give it to your advertising agency. The advertising agency will create an advertising proposition statement out of it. That advertising proposition statement, go through it and give it the tick marks what you want to give and the
Hmm.
cross marks where you want to cross things out. And that becomes your advertising. When you do it this way, brand strategy drives advertising, and that advertising drives sales, and that
Hmm.
sales drives satisfaction. Other way around is the dog is advertising and brand strategy is the tail.
Hmm.
When you do this, you're bound to fail. Therefore, simple thing, brand
Hmm.
strategy is the dog,
Hmm.
advertising is the tail.
Hmm.
The dog must wag the tail. The tail
Hmm.
must never wag the dog. Touche.
Thank you, Mr. Harish Bijoor, for sharing such a insightful thoughts, and especially when you spoke about Manthan. Yes, it is very, very important. And in today's contest, each and every brand in the market really need to think across how they are going to get into the market. They need to tweak their strategy. They need to build new go-to-market plans. And friends, you will keep on hearing a lot of strategies, lot of inputs from the various thought leaders. So please don't forget to subscribe or share with your other friends. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you and bye bye.